Yeah? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to the people who have joined us here at DEPT in Amsterdam and the people who have joined us online. Welcome. I'm Helene. I'm your host for today. I'm the head of strategy here at DEPT, and I'm going to be talking, doing the intro for all the speakers because we have a beautiful lineup here today. But enough about me, let's talk about content. Because content is everywhere, and content is here to stay, because imagine all the content you have consumed maybe in the last day already. Maybe you've listened to a podcast this morning on your way here or on your way to work, did a good binge last night on HBO, or watched some product demonstrations while you're doing some shopping. Maybe some TikTok dances your kids did, or maybe even the Facebook photos your mom put up of her holiday. All content, and yeah, content is everywhere and it's here to stay. And if you think of any niche, there is content for it. And people are not using it only for entertainment, they're also using it for inspiration, information, but also for shopping purposes. And I have some stats here that back that up. Because 40% of young people actually use Insta and TikTok for search tools, bypassing Google. So actually not going to Google anymore, but straight into the content. And 93% of Gen Z actually use social media and content in their shopping orientation. And 86 even want to make money posting and making content, so adding even more to that mix of already endless content. So content's everywhere and content is here to stay. And maybe you are asking yourself as a brand, how do we keep up? And what is our role to play and how do we play it? And today we have a beautiful lineup for you to actually hopefully answer some of these questions. Because we're talking all sorts of content. And this is our lineup. We will start with Isaac, Maarten and Luca telling you all about social content by demonstrating how bol.com is actually winning on social and doing that well. Then Richard from Just Eat Takeaway will take the stage and he will tell you all about how to be smarter and relevant with content at scale. Then we have a little break. You can have a cup of coffee and have a coffee break at home as well. And then we'll dive into influencer marketing. And Salome and Janine will use the Hunkemuller case to actually show you all the niches that have their own face. And then last but not least, our very own Franklin will bring to you a very immersive presentation on immersive content. And then you'll see me again. I'll say thank you and goodbye. And hopefully you're all inspired on your Tuesday. But without further ado, I will introduce the bol.com team. So give a hand to Isaac, Luca, and Maarten.
Well, thank you so much, Helene. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start off with a question. Quick question. How many of you here work in social media? And, quite some people. All right. Quite some people who don't work in social media. But don't worry, I think this talk can be interesting for you as well. First off, my name is Isaac, and if the clicker works, that would be awesome, but it doesn't. So, all right, back. No, never mind. All right, my name is Isaac. I'm the lead of Team Social at bol.com, and Team Social at bol.com. Bol.com Team Social is very important in reaching Bol.com's younger audience today. And for people who don't know Bol.com, it's the biggest e-commerce platform in the Netherlands, and it's been going at it since 1999. So that's quite some time, 24 years. In internet years, that's very long. We're here to talk about something, talk about the social success of Bol. Over the past couple of years, Bol has won a lot of awards, solo and together with DEPT, so quite successful. But not only they won awards, we run very extensive brand trackers, and all those brand trackers show that social media is very important in reaching bol.com's audience, and especially its younger audience. And we do that together with DEPT, our creative partner. The great thing about social media is that you don't need to conduct extensive research to know if people like your content or not, because they will just tell you in the comments. You can see it's all in Dutch. It's a very Dutch brand, but don't worry. All positive comments, I assure you. This is very interesting to see that Bol uses how Bol uses social media. The clicker just doesn't work really well. Like I said, Bol.com is trying to reach a younger and younger audience. Gen Z is very important. You've all heard of Gen Z, and they just don't watch the darn television anymore. So they just sit on their screen. Social media is the first screen. TV is the second screen. So that's a big problem if you run a lot of TV campaigns. So we're working on that, and it's especially important when you realize Gen Z are today's families. Somebody told me this last week, and I thought, wow, they're already 27 years old. They they started their own families. They have their own income. So it's very important to reach these people today. At Bol, we found that it's very important to approach this a little bit different than your usual campaigns. We set up with DEPT an interesting approach, and Martin and Luca will tell you all about it in the next 20 minutes or so. So thanks.
All right, thank you, Isaac, my manager. So he asked me to do this, to deep dive into how Bol is winning on social, and we put together with Luca, we put together 6 reasons why. Let me see if the clicker works. It does. Okay, well, this first one you've probably heard before. It's we don't make ads, we make content. And why do we do this? People in general dislike ads. So that's probably nothing new as well. And especially Gen Z dislikes ads. So we focus on creating fun content, which is relatable for people. And of course, there's always a product central. So how do we do this? Yeah, there we go. We know who our audience is. We know where our audience is. We know what niche cultures apply to them, what kind of trends they follow, what kind of news they take in. And then, of course, we put our brand in there again with the product. And, of course, I just mentioned it already, one key word is you got to make it relatable. So for the non-Dutch speakers here, it says, places photo online, the girls, and they're like, oh, I want to be you, slay queen, and when does it stop? I can't, that kind of thing. So you probably noticed that it's not too serious, this content, and that's the next point I'd like to bring you. So don't take yourself too seriously, and especially on TikTok this works. I'm going to just start this next video for you.
Mijn manager zei dat we serieuzer moeten worden, dus vanaf nu gaan wij het anders doen.
Geachte personen, maak kennis met bol.com. Een winkel op het internet. Bol.
Okay, so some of you might be thinking like, what did I just watch? And does this work? And well, it actually does, because the comments are like, Bol, oh, that's one too far. Bol can at least make fun advertisings. When I see sponsored, I scroll right away, and at Bol I don't. Bol's on a different level. I love this ad. Bol, change your TV commercial with this one. And no, we said, no, this is too serious for TV. So let me double check. So don't make ads, although we do sponsor this, so people still understand it's an ad, but even if you make content, people are willing to stay and positively interact with it. And oh yeah, so what you should, sorry, let me start over. Don't take your content and your brand too seriously online, but what you should take seriously, Luca, is the creative process.
Yes. Thank you, Martin.
You're welcome.
So yeah, co-creation. Isaac already touched upon it, but yeah, this is really working for us. Practically every step of the creative process is done in co-creation. So once every 2 weeks we have a brainstorm together. We pick a subject and we brainstorm about insights, about content. Then also a big part of the creation itself is done in co-creation. So when we visit the Bol.com office, we use their studio, we film TikToks, we film Reels, everybody from both teams, they just jump in and help. We have a lot of fun making them. And then also an important part of the process is the reviewing and feedback part, and we do that together as well. Also in bi-weekly review sessions, we show them our work. Maarten and his team will give feedback on the work, and it also works the other way around. So they will ask us sometimes for help with their post as well when they're stuck, they don't know how to finish it. We just give them a fresh pair of eyes. We help them finish the post. So it really shows the power of co-creation when you can help each other with your own powers. Because we work so closely together, we have very short lines. So an example of that is our WhatsApp group, which is called Gerda's Knutselclubje. And it's really an opportunity for us to be very quickly to check things, especially when it's like an inhaker or a news checking post. We can just put it in a group. Within a few minutes we have, this is a good idea, let's put it online. Bam, a few minutes later it's online. So you can work really quick in that way. And that's working for us very good. But more on news checking later. So to sum things up, what you will see a lot in the agency world is that agencies and clients are on their own islands. They're doing their own thing. Communication can be pretty slow and tedious. It goes back and forth. Takes a few days before you hear back. What we do, we're just one big island. We are in this together in every aspect of the creative process. So brainstorming, making content, reviewing. It works really well for us. All right, so let's focus on the content itself. What you will see a lot is that people make content and just put it on every platform they know, the same content without really adjusting it for the platform. And luckily enough, Bol realized a few years ago already that every platform needs its own content, because every platform needs its own strategy, because every platform has its own audience with their own needs. So we will go through the 3 biggest platforms that Bol is visible on, and I'll show you what the differences look like. So first of all, we have good old Facebook, still a pretty relevant platform for Bol. A big part of the audience is still on here. The content that we make on Facebook is always very relatable for like the general crowd. We give a lot of visual cues. We just use parts of the website to make it really easy for people to understand. You don't have to dig much deeper than just what you see. So we use things like a review of pillows, a review from your partner that says, more, more, more. Review from you, where's my couch? Or the second one, delivered a white shirt and some red pasta sauce, and on its way is a red t-shirt. So it's things that almost everybody will understand or have been through in their lives. And then when we move on to Instagram, you will see that the whole design changes as well. It's less on the relatable side, it's more on the fun, a bit more absurd humor. So this one, does anyone have an opener? That one guy uses his mouth. So you have to do a bit more work yourself in these posts. You have to have a little bit more knowledge of internet culture or just culture. Because we just give a text, we give an image, and you have to make the connection yourself. But it works really well on Instagram because the audience there likes to do a bit more work themselves. And next to that is a reel. It's one of our formats where we basically have a reel review and we have someone sing it out loud into a song. So we can show a small piece of that.
Dit is een 5-sterren review over de Barbie Dreamtopia eenhoorn met verlichte sterren en hoorn.
Gaat over onze dochter van 4 en ze vond het geweldig. Het mooie eenhoorn, mooie verlichting en super vrolijke kleuren. Yeah. Verzending van bol.com weer buitengewoon. Nooit problemen gehad, toch? Voor een blij meisje geef je dit cadeau. Cadeau.
Yeah, good morning. So every episode of this uses a different genre. So we've done hard rock, we've done happy hardcore, we've done metal, heavy metal. So really fun way to show the reviews. So we show positive reviews, but in a very absurd, funny way. Fun to make as well. So TikTok, the last one from the 3. On TikTok we just go all out with craziness. There's not really any rule. No brand guides. We just try to blend in with the DIY style that you see on TikTok. So it feels very native. It doesn't feel like it's this big corporation that makes videos and tries to sell stuff. Yeah, let's look at two examples. The first one is an unboxing.
They ask you how you are.
Yeah, so this actually started a revolution. Like everybody went crazy for Dickie Dick. I think this one got like 1.4 million views, and people wanted to see more and more. So we made more videos with Dickie Dick in it. Became kind of like our ambassador on TikTok, which is crazy. And the second one is about capybaras, because for some reason they became internet's favorite animal. So let's look at that one.
De top 5 capibaras vanbol.com. Clanten Service Capibara. Capibara in Endosie. Postboda Capibara. CEO Capibara. Capibara Fraimivo.
Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that we make on TikTok. So yeah, super absurd, funny, but it works really well, yeah.
Oh, that's me again, huh?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, a large part, really big thing a lot of brands I think underestimate the importance of is community management, and it's something that I think really put Bol on the map back like in 2017, and we saw that people didn't come to enjoy our content, not only that, but they came to check out what's going on in the comments, and when you interact in this fun way, it creates fans for your brand and really builds a community. But you shouldn't just react, like don't throw out simple hearts or crying, laughing emojis or stuff like that. No, you gotta put in some effort and take some time. I'll give you an example of this. It's a post on the housing market. So the bidding starts at 500,000 euros. And Danny asked us, is this new or existing housing? And we answered, this is a detached, energy-efficient and cozy new build studio with cheap square meters where the expansion options are endless. The architectural style gives the house a playful character and everything in the neighborhood is within walking distance. And while we're typing this comment, we're immediately going to increase the asking price to 800,000 euros. So put in some effort and take some time in your answers, and when you keep on doing this, strange things will happen, like our Gerda from accounting. You just saw our WhatsApp group called Gerda's Knutselclubje. Some of you are like thinking, who is Gerda? What is this? Gerda is, back in 2019 on some post, we, as a joke, replied to some people asking who is making these posts, who is answering to all these comments, and we repeated Gerda from accounting 3 times. And then, you won't believe it, we're 4 years on, and every day Gerda gets asked the most crazy and random things online, like, Gerda, how do I concentrate on my exams? Well, don't be on Instagram. Gerda, do you have a penis? Okay, all that kind of thing. And when you really want to go next level with your community management, proactively engage, it's something we're doing at Bol, really trying to do this. Because there's power in your own content, but there's also power in other people's content, and there's so much out there. So with relatively low effort, you can get relatively high exposure on other people's content. But beware, don't just go commenting anywhere. Know that the person you're commenting on fits your brand, and beware of the cringe. So that's you again.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, so memes, relatable insights, they work for your content. But if you want to have like real kick-ass content, you should really focus on things that happen around you in the world as well, and use that for your content. Because once you know how to tap into that, it can really give you a great boost. So let's look at 2 ways to do that. I've defined 2 ways. It's newsjacking and it's trends. The difference between them is that mostly newsjacking is about the stuff that happens on the news. It's the stuff that people talk about at the coffee machine. It's just what's on people's mind. And if you find a way to use this in your content, you can use this momentum that's already there and bring that to your brand and to your content. The other one is trends. Trends often originate on the internet. They live on specific platforms like TikTok, for example. lots of trends there. And trends can give you an opportunity to really show that you understand the internet, you understand internet culture, you understand what's funny and what's trendy right now. And then, yes, thank you. Yeah, so newsjacking, something happens, boom, everything explodes, internet explodes, media explodes. Often it's only just a few hours or maybe a few days that is relevant, while trends, on the other hand, happen for a longer time, happen like a smooth wave-like structure almost. But for both, the same thing applies. Don't be too early, don't be too late. The best part we have figured out is just before the peak, which is of course very hard to know when the peak is. So a lot of that is done by feel and just looking around you. What are other brands doing? Are people talking about it? Is it still relevant? But yeah, once you know how to crack the code, it can really give you a boost. So some examples of newsjacking we did for Bol. When Dry January ended, we wished everybody good luck with Air Fry February. And when the clash between Chris Rock and Will Smith happened, we let Will Smith write a review on a DVD by Chris Rock, which is 1 star. So just clever ways to use the momentum that's already there and put it in your own post. But important thing, don't overdo it. There's literally a day for everything. So the 3rd of April was Chocolate Mousse Day. The 5th of April, it's Reader Roadmap Day. 9th of April, Day of the Finnish Language. So it's nice. Some brands try to like tap into everything just for the sake of newsjacking, but that doesn't really work for us. We try to focus on like the big relevant stuff. So don't overdo it. So here's some examples of trends. The first one is an audio on TikTok that went viral. It's from a movie where Shawn Mendes did the voice of a singing crocodile. Everybody just went crazy. So we made our own version with the audio. Super simple, but it did really well. And then the second one is kind of a trend that's happening on like Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok. Everybody has the same kind of interior nowadays, which is this beige, no colors at all. So yeah, this colorful thing, I'm sorry honey, but the thing does not fit in mama's beige interior. So a nice way to play around with this interior trend as well. Yeah, another fun thing. Trends can also just be born out of nothing. You can't always orchestrate a trend. We noticed that in our own channels as well. So we have some micro trends on our own TikTok channel, for example. This is Marcel, which is a cat brush. We made a post with just the cat brush and the name Marcel underneath it, just for fun. And then people started going crazy. This became like the new Dickie Dick. Everybody asked for Marcel. I want Marcel back. Where is Marcel? So we decided to make more content with Marcel. I think we even ordered one for real now. Yeah. So we can make some content with Marcel. Yeah, so always be aware of things like this. And when it happens, just own it. Just exploit it to the max. And give people what they want. And then on to Maarten for the last chapter.
Last thing, yes. The last point, the last reason why we're winning is a really good, powerful one, I think. It's about trust and it's about trying and experimenting. So you're probably scratching my head. I'm scratching my head as well from what's my next slide, but I'm just going to click through. So the first point is you trust your creatives and you get trust from your management. So there's so much going on social. It's hard for everyone to keep up of all the specific trends and memes going on. So if you don't, as a manager, understand what your creatives are bringing you, give them the benefit of the doubt sometimes. You know, a common theme is when in doubt, say no. I would like to give you, when in doubt, sometimes say yes, because that's how you stay on top. And of course, with that comes a little risk, and sometimes you can go over the edge. But if you never go over the edge, you won't know where the edge is. So to give you an example of that, way back in the day, so the delivery person isn't the only one coming tomorrow. Now this. On our internal workplace, Facebook kind of thing, people were like, is this the bol.com I wake up for every morning? And because they thought this was, well, too much. What we learned from this is now, we can do this every now and again, but we can't go posting sex jokes every day, you know? So like 4 in a year. Yeah. And one more thing, of course, is to, Luca touched upon this already, but experiment and try things out together. Experiment with your content, experiment with your way of working, try new things, drop old things, go edgy. And don't set your briefings too tight as well, I would think is a good, as a client. I'd like to leave you with one last example. For this, we just had 2 points. We had MTV Cribs was one of the inputs for this video, and Barbie. That's it, and we just went in the studio, and this video is the result.
Welkom in mijn crib. Ik woon hier met al mijn huisgenootjes. Kom mee! Dit is de woonkamer. Let niet op de rommel hoor. En dit is de koelkast. Even kijken wat erin zit hoor. Holy shit! En nu gaan we naar het dakterras. Volgens mij is er... Oh, hi Woody. Een feestje!
De muziek is harder joh, ik kan met 2 niet eens horen joh.
En dit is waar de magie plaatsvindt. En dit zijn mijn paardenvriendjes. Ze zijn echt vet magisch. Nou, dit was zo gezellig. Doei!
Alright, chaos, but fun chaos. And this post was, this video was actually a trial for a really important supplier for Bol. And the good thing that coming out of all this content and our content in general is that even like rusty, old, traditional suppliers are seeing the benefits and appreciating this type of content. So we're going to trial with more paid partnerships collaborations in the future. So yeah, that's it. Here's the 6 points again, if you want to take a picture. Make content not as, take your co-creation seriously, think platform specific, community management, engage. Stay on top of things and trust each other and experiment. And, oh yeah, final slide. If you do this, your CMO will be your biggest fan. Which he is, yes. I think now we have some time for Q&A, yeah? Anybody? Oh, in the back there.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, by the way, very interesting.
You're welcome.
I want to understand how do you validate around the copyright and these sort of issues that come up, the legal side, when you're creating content?
Like in the videos, the songs and stuff. Yeah. So on TikTok, there's it's a gray area. Sometimes we might go into that gray area, but we don't use audio. We have a business account, so there's copyrighted material we can't even use. So, and there's a little trick around this because sometimes there's audio which says like it contains this and this, which you can use. And if it's organic on the platform, doesn't really matter. But if you want to boost your content, probably you shouldn't. Yeah.
How much content do you produce?
Oh.
How much content do you produce on average, and how big is the team?
We produce tons of content. We have boards filled with good ideas, which I don't know what to do with. But we post 5 times a week on Instagram, 3 times on Facebook, 3 times on TikTok. Then there's we do some tweets as well. And we do Pinterest pins as well. So quite a lot.
Team size?
Oh, team size, yeah, that's a good one. So we have 5 community managers on our side and 3 creatives at Bol's side, and then there's on your side.
Yeah, so we work with 3, 4 people, and then 1 guy that helps with video editing as well. So 4 to 5 people. Yeah, which is enough to make all the content.
What are your KPIs for campaigns like this?
It's a good question. Back in the day, we had engagement rates and reach, and we kind of let go of that. Actually, it's more about. Maybe you want to join in?
I'm responsible for it all. No, actually we use the main KPI, brand KPIs, like top of mind awareness, brand preference, and we try to track that. And we try to single out some content, and we run tests specifically on TikTok, for example. And we try to really isolate what social media brings to the table. And in general, I can't really share the numbers, but in general, it really helps. And that, of course, this explains the investment Bol.com does in these social media platforms. So we don't do it for nothing, I can assure you.
Yeah, and to just get back to that, so we do, of course, look at our engagement rates, and we see if we're doing good or not. There's benchmarks, but it's not like a KPI. We have to... the engagement rating, it's the top of mind stuff.
There's one more question from back from the online audience.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And the question is, do you ask your clients, and I think maybe Bol.com, for permission?
So you mean like the Barbies and then the products we? Well, not really. But they are products on our website, and there's terms for promotional use, so we can use these products.
It's all legal, I can assure you.
Yes.
All right, give it up for Team Bol.com.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker. I'm going to introduce to you Richard from Just Eat Takeaway, who's going to talk to you about content at scale. Give it up for Richard.
Do I need the clicker? See if it works. Hey guys, thanks for having me today. I can see why they did the Bol.com guys first. I've got no happy hardcore throughout this presentation, so we might skip back to their slides at some point. But yeah, I'm Rich Burgess. I am the global principal at Just Eat Takeaway. So I look after all of our creative content across our digital channels. I joined in June 2021. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we've built creative automation at Just Eat Takeaway across 19 different markets. So, where did we start? So obviously we all know that how we're seen, how we're heard, and what we look like online is how our customers perceive us, and it's a huge benefit to what we do in our digital channels. And because of that, at Just Eat Takeaway, we've got, just like all of you guys at other brands, lots of different messages that we have to convey. So that might be the city-led messages that we've got with a restaurant like Sla, with exclusive offers based in Amsterdam, or it might be a new launch with a product at McDonald's, all the way through to top-of-funnel brand awareness comms, like I Did Somebody Say campaign featuring Katy Perry, or UEFA sponsorship communications. So we've got lots of different messages coming from lots of different places, and with that, we've also obviously got lots of different stakeholders, all with our kind of digital channels in the center. And I guess when we're talking about digital channels, we're talking about social, we're talking about display, we're talking about online video. So all of these different stakeholders have different messages that they want us to tell on our channels, which obviously means we've got to manage different people, manage different messages, and look at how we can get that into our channels in the most effective way possible. And with a recent company merger, when I joined back in June 2021, we didn't have one unified global brand, but now it's safe to say that that has changed. So we were very much at a local market message level. We were kind of being everything to everybody, and what we needed to move was to more of a global leadership level. So how do we have an overall strategic direction for us on our digital channels? How do we make sure that we've got aligned strategy, and how do we do local messages for our markets? So we're very mindful that obviously we can create global content, but obviously we also need to talk on a local level, both at a national and a city level, which is really, really relevant for us. And that meant that we needed to look at how our organic content and also our paid content came together. So we built a connected social strategy that brought these worlds into one. And it was quite clear for us that obviously the challenge was clear. We needed to deliver multiple messages, different communications, please multiple different stakeholders, but both at a global and a local level. And the risk was also clear. So we could be very inefficient with our budgets, with our time, with our resource. And that meant that we could compromise how our brand was going to look online with our different creative look and feel. So we knew what our challenge was, we knew what our risks were. Where did we then take the next step in our journey? And that's where the guys from DEPT came in. So we've actually worked with DEPT for about 6 or 7 years now across both our global entity and our UK entity. When I first joined the business, it was about how do we bring all of this together to look at a global view of digital. So we started the journey with the DEPT team to look at how creative automation could play a part in this. We felt that there was obviously opportunity for us to minimize our manual output, look at how we can build messages that are right for platform, for audience, across the different stages of the funnel with our media team. So this became a big journey internally of our team in the brand side of marketing and also our performance team in the media side of marketing. How can we bring this together with DEPT and go on this journey together for creative alignment? Where that started was looking at 3 different things really. So we sat down with the DEPT team. We went through our full strategy for the year. So this was kind of right at the start of end of 2021, looking into 2022. We looked at our full strategy for the year. We looked at what our budgets were for the year. We looked at what our timings would be for our different campaigns. Some of our campaigns can be 4 weeks. Some of our campaigns can be 3 months. So we looked at every single building block that we needed to deliver in the year to come. And we gave full transparency to the DEPT team. They then took it away to look at how those foundations could be built in a messaging kind of matrix and how that would then output for us in terms of what creative should look like, what our creative needed to look like, and what messages we needed to tell. This was really, really important for us at Just Eat Takeaway because it allowed us to then really focus on what things we could do quickly and what things we could do in the most efficient way, and also then look at where our budget could be spent for more bespoke creative. So our Katy Perry world, our UEFA world, where we would actually obviously invest in manual creation, whether that be AR lenses or bespoke content creation on set in LA. So yeah, it was really important for us to set this out right at the start. And we moved ourselves from what we were doing previously, which was more about a creative and a media silo, through to actually strategy at the center, looking at data and tech and how that comes together with the creative arm at DEPT and the production arm at DEPT. So bringing all these different worlds together and looking at how we can prioritize our different messages, all based around data and tech. So what do those worlds look like? So our kind of end goal was how do we build global solutions but for local problems? We've obviously got 19 different countries, we've got many different cities within those countries, and there's many different challenges within each of those cities as well. So the complexity that we need to tell and that we want to communicate is quite vast. So that meant we went into 2 areas. One of those is assets at scale. So how do we actually create creative at scale in thousands of asset output? And then the other part is proper creative automation, which I'll go into both of these a little bit later to give you a bit of background to what both of these 2 things mean. We use both of them at different times in our process with the DEPT guys and across all of our different messages. And the creative automation world for us has been pretty transformational in terms of what we do and what we focus on at Just Eat Takeaway. So before I go into what they are, I'll just stop and explain many different reasons why both of these worlds of our global solutions for the local problems are beneficial for us at a brand level and why they would be beneficial for any other brands as well, looking at content creation in this way. So when you look at assets at scale, this is all about multiple format outputs, but it's in hours, not days, weeks, or months. So that's a big change for us. When you change your errors, so if there's, I don't know, an error in the translations that we have for a particular market, or if a restaurant decides not to participate in a particular offer, when we've got errors, we can apply that to multiple deliverables at once. No designer has to go into each individual asset one by one, which obviously takes time. We give approval on master assets, so they're often built in English. And then once we've given approval both from our side and our creative studio team side internally, we're then able to roll that out really quickly across multiple outputs and all the different formats. And with DEPT, we can look at what are those interchangeable elements that we need to do. For us, obviously, a lot of the time that will be food, restaurants, messages. For other people or for the bowl.com guys, it would be things like products from their e-commerce. So yeah, all of the interchangeable elements can differ per creative. They could differ per brand. And then when you look at the creative automation side, I guess this takes it one step further. So this becomes slightly more sophisticated and slightly kind of more complex. That's where some of the genius team at DEPT come in to play the part for us. But there's multiple channels and formats all in one process. So we can output up to, I think it's now 55 different formats, sizes, static, motion within one process, which I'll go through slightly later. We can make instant changes for our markets and messages. So we can change something within our feed solution from a 10% offer to a 20% offer, and we can output those assets almost in minutes, which is amazing. We've got easier media setups and connections. So with the assets at scale, everything's delivered manually, whereas this one we plug in through APIs to our media partners like Smartly or Bycape. We can have local market nuances, so we can go down to different offer levels, we can go down to different restaurant levels for our markets, which is amazing. Gives us ultimately huge flexibility in all of our communications that we do. And again, similar to the assets at scale, it's templated assets. So again, we have our master assets, we understand how they look for every different size and output, and we're able to approve them, and then we know the changes that are coming through. Obviously, we do QC every asset that comes out the other end, which sometimes can be thousands and thousands. So sometimes the teams don't thank us for doing it that way, but it definitely helps us from an output perspective. So I will go into just what actually do both of these things mean. The slide moves along. Great. So cracking into assets at scale first. On the next slide, we will see. This one's gone dead. So together with DEPT, we use their proprietary tool, which is called Lightspeed. I won't go into too much detail about this. Again, the team at DEPT kind of give us full view of this, which really, really helps us to explain to people internally how it works. But basically, it's a templated solution. This here is a kind of small diagram, I suppose, of what we do build. So you can see on the left-hand side, we've got the different languages per market, the different cities that we might be talking in, our copy, which obviously then is translated, and the different food. So all of these are the variables that I spoke through earlier of what we can apply to the world that we've got. And then you can see the output here, the final output of all the different sizes and scales, different food items that are placed in. So yeah, we have to work within a lot of safe zones, obviously for social. So we apply all those UI safe zones right at the start to make sure that we're in the right place. And on the next slide, it will just show a little bit about what that workflow looks like. This is quite simple, really, when you break it down. So the creative templates that I spoke about are on the far left. All of the grey columns are our different variables that we apply. And then the kind of cool stuff that the guys at DEPT do is in the middle with the automation to then output thousands of assets here, videos, stills, different sizes and scales. We then have them all put into folders, and then we go through them on a QC basis, check all of the correct translations have been put in, the correct branding, et cetera, et cetera. The only way they can muck up at the end is if in the feed anything is incorrect. But it's then a really, really easy fix to then respond back in the feed, update the feed, and then output the creatives again. So again, we can kind of do this on a revolving process. I think the biggest thing to call out is when working with ourselves and the DEPT team, I think us understanding this full process has been really, really helpful to then be able to tell other stakeholders internally. As I said earlier, there's lots of different people within our global marketing team that want to understand how this process works and how it outputs assets for them, both at a local level and for their different campaigns. So it's really, really important that we're able to explain and share how this world is done. And then on the next slide, we just show some of the different creative that we've built with assets at scale. So obviously not every single element in every single one of these assets is done with assets at scale because we've done kind of on-set shoots, production, different elements. But in the one in the top right-hand corner, for example, this copy will be translated for all of the markets that are included. It might be our logos, so did somebody say Just Eat, but for all the different languages. So it might be the food in the middle one. So there is elements within each of these assets that we will then plug in to deliver thousands of assets at once at scale. So that's one half of how we do it. The second half goes into the next phase of what we then built from looking at, okay, we know we can save money and time from building assets at scale, but how do we actually now give the biggest level of flexibility for our business across all of our different messages? So, on to the next slide. This is what we call Project Sunday. And in short, on the next slide, it is a creative automation tool built by the team at DEPT from our brief and our understanding of what we need to deliver at a business that allows us to place the right messages for the right audiences, the right restaurants at the right time for the right kind of platforms. So it brings together creative content, it brings together our paid media teams, it brings together tech and data all into one place. It's a beast of a tool. It's taken us about 6 months to roll out when we first launched it. And we've officially launched yesterday, phase 2 of it, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But it is an amazing tool that's been transformational for us across every level of our communication across digital. We call it Project Sunday on the next slide, which kind of shows a whole host of assets in the background that we outputted within the first couple of weeks of using the tool. And I'll show you in a second some of the templates that we've just refreshed in the last week or so. Why is it called Project Sunday? I suppose it's like a sundae ice cream. So you've got all the different components to make the sundae incredible, and then the little cherry on top to make it even better. And what we create is tailored assets that come from all different areas. So it might be that we input different restaurant messages, different promotions. It might be that we're talking about a particular consumer mindset at that time, whether that be veganuary, for example, or something that obviously is relevant for us as a business. Or it might be down to who our audience is. So it might be that we're talking to a particular niche audience or a broad audience and how we can tailor the creative for that. So all of these different messages ladder in to our creative. And on the next slide, the slide's gone, don't worry. It's a simple workflow. And that simple workflow is basically, this is now all built off a Google spreadsheet. So we have thousands of rows and thousands of columns that can every single row and column outputs one asset. And that sounds slightly more complicated than it is. When you first see the spreadsheet, I think it blows everybody's minds a little bit of how you're going to input all of that data and get out the right output at the other side. But we walk through that regularly with the DEPT guys to work out every single element to it. That means that we're choosing which formats we want it, whether it's stills or static, what the copy is. We link out to places like Amazon Web Server or Dropbox for the different imagery. Obviously, we have really important kind of boundaries that we have to adhere to. So things like character limits are obviously really, really important, especially when we're then translating, because certain languages are a lot longer. We also have things like placements of product or food or logos, so they all need to stay within the same elements within the solution. Otherwise, they'll overlap and they'll all start looking a bit weird. But ultimately, all of that delivers us tailored creative that looks like this. So this is just a burger example with Lieferando, a brand in Germany and Austria. And obviously, we can apply things like terms and conditions. We can apply all different elements to overlay on top. And some of these elements can also be switched on and off, so that our creative per market or per city, if we don't want an offer, we don't need to necessarily have 20% or a different offer in there. We can add different copy to tell the right story for that particular asset. On the next slide, all this. So we've got more creative. I'll show you a little bit of what scalable messages we do, but at the minute we've got about 5 or 6 templates that we run through this. By the end of the year, we're likely to have about 12 for different messages across the year. So as you can see, all of them are slightly different, slightly unique in the way that we build them. They all adhere to our brand guidelines, so we bring in all of the different elements of our co-branded, of our colours, of our kind of cards, or the way that our font needs to be presented. So all of it ladders back to who we are at Just Eat Takeaway. So the risks that I spoke about earlier in terms of not looking like the same brand, we absolutely are. And across all of our different templates, we look like the same brand. And that then means we've got scalable solutions for all of our different messages. So just a snapshot of some of those today. So we're able to deliver city-based messages, which allows us to talk to people on a geo basis, and it allows us to also highlight supply in new regions or markets. So that might be that there's a new restaurant that we've signed up, or it might be that we've got a particular offer with those restaurants. And then we can dynamically serve that based on our media geo-targeting. Also like DPA ads that we run obviously through Meta, through Snapchat. Then we've got our restaurant and partners communications. So that's when we'll often work with just one partner or a couple of partners to hero them in our communications. That might be with or without offers, or it might be a new vegan burger launch, for example. Then on the next one, we've got sponsorships. So obviously, we want to own the football moment around games and the tournament. So how do we actually place offers or comms to get people to order when they're about to sit down to watch the match. So we bring that in. You can see in this template there's a slightly different style and look and feel for us, so we're able to apply that to our football communications. We're also able to send through all of our master assets to UEFA themselves. Obviously they need to approve how they're used within our world, so all of our master assets can go to get approved by other partners as well, like Burger King, McDonald's. And then there's many, many more. So this one here is our grocery in certain markets, but there's loads of different local market messages that we're able to give flexibility to now across many different templates. And as I say, by kind of July, August this year, we'll have even more that the markets can choose from. And finally, I suppose, and that's me speaking really, really quickly as well, so apologies. But finally, I suppose the most important thing is what's the results? How big has this been for us and what has this changed? On the next slide, you'll see it's pretty transformational in terms of the amount of money it saves us. So as I've said, we're able to move away from manual asset production by using both assets at scale and the creative automation world with DEPT. It's 400% cheaper than what we would pay manually, which allows us to then focus on the other comms in terms of our bespoke creation and focus our budgets elsewhere, allowing us to output thousands and thousands of assets. It is, next slide, it takes us from kind of hours or days and weeks to minutes. So we're actually able to update our creative really, really quickly. We're also able to review kind of multiple thousands of assets in short spaces of time, rather than waiting for designers to deliver them one by one. And it's got an unparalleled scale. So we've actually now delivered, I think it's something like 25,000 assets in the last kind of 12 months. That's across 34 cities and 19 different markets. So that scale could be bigger if we wanted it to, and if we wanted to increase our media spends in certain things, and etc. But at the minute, yeah, we've delivered over 25,000 assets, which has been incredible for us as a business. And I suppose the most important one on the next slide is that it's driving orders. So for us, this is kind of across the full funnel. However, obviously, one of the most important things for us is to drive orders and installs of our app. We're actually consistently seeing anything built through Project Sunday and connected through our media setups as the best performer across multiple different markets. So lower cost per clicks, lower cost per orders. So yeah, it's unparalleled in terms of what we deliver or what we have delivered in the past, which has been really, really beneficial for us. And what's been, I guess, the key to success, because as I said, there's many stakeholders that we needed to bring along the journey. There's many different messages that we need to kind of output through that. And I think really for us, the biggest thing is about taking everybody on that journey with us. It's about being able to bring everybody from our team and the media team and the studio team from a brand guidelines perspective, as well as everybody within our global marketing function along that journey together to say, look, we're about to transform how we do output of our creation. You're going to see templated assets, and this is how they're going to start to look. This is how we're going to start to use them. So really, it's about showing people what the benefit was right at the start, taking everybody on that journey through to delivering it, and then also being able to show the results right at the end, which has been exciting. I think everybody's enjoyed being on the journey with us. At times, it's been a hell of a lot of work to get certain things in, and sometimes when you first set up the feed input sheet, it can take days to put all of those columns and rows in, but also the DEPT team not only then try and build better tech for our creation of assets, they also then try and build better tech to input into the feed sheet. So we're always trying to look at ways that we can change and optimize and reduce our manual work. And I think the one final slide, yeah, so we launched this back in February 2021, which is what we called Project Sunday 1.0. As I mentioned earlier, we launched Project Sunday 2.0 just yesterday, which is amazing. That's taken us from only social assets to the whole of our digital kind of sphere. So we now do display, online video, every single asset that we output across our digital channel can now be done through Project Sunday. So it's further reducing our manual production. It's allowing us to put our messages in more places, and it's allowing us to give that consistent look and feel that I spoke about being the risk earlier today, really kind of across everything that we do. It has meant, going back to the feed input sheet, that the feed input sheet is now 2 times bigger. But again, when you see the size and scale of what you're able to output on the other side, it's pretty transformational in terms of what we've delivered. And I think that is it.
Thank you. I think we have a lot of questions from the online audience, so let's start with that. First one, which selection criteria do you use for the assets in automation? Is this done via AI?
So selection criteria is based on often either our decision at a kind of level of what do we want to communicate, or a local decision, but we plug a lot of data into that. So for example, which foods are the most important per market or per city? So we'll look at data as to our orders. So what, is it pizza? Is it poke bowls? Is it, acai bowls? So we look at what that data is, and then we plug that into our decision making for our output of our creation. So none of that is currently done through, I suppose, API connection into the feed, but it's using data from output, and then we build that into our feed. We are looking at ways for how we can bring actual first and third party data into the feed-based solutions, which is, with Projects India 2.0 is becoming possible, whereas 1.0, the feed wasn't as sophisticated. That means that, for example, the easiest example is if the weather was to go over 20 degrees, you could switch out the chicken nuggets in the McDonald's communications to a McFlurry, for example. So bringing that kind of data in will allow us to tailor our comms even more, not just to what we decide and how we input, but also then kind of rotate messages for the most appropriate thing for our audience, or time of day, or weather, or whatever that might be.
Great, thank you. Another question. How many in-house developers do you guys have to develop a tool like Project Sunday?
So we have no developers, although my team probably feel like they're developers at times. So we work with just a small handful of the guys at DEPT who develop the full tool. It's actually not that many. You'd think it would be a hell of a lot more. There's like a handful, 4 or 5 of the team from the tech team, but my team then do all of the input of the data. So it seems potentially more tech heavy than actually the output that it is. Like everybody in the business is able to understand the nuances within the feed and within what we do. But again, going back to the point that I mentioned earlier in terms of that full transparency, both that we give DEPT and DEPT give us, they walk us through every element of that tool, and same with our partners. So we've had multiple calls with the likes of Smartly and Bikeape to really say to them, this is how our tool is going to connect to your tool, this is how our assets are going to connect to kind of the world that we build from a media perspective. So we've got many people on that journey with us, and that's got Smartly developers also connecting through API and Bikeape. So there is many people involved, but internally for us at Just Eat Takeaway, there's no developers. There's just a team of us working with the DEPT team to get it live.
Great, thank you. It's time for a break. We'll stop for a little bit and be back at 10:05. So enjoy a cup of coffee and see you soon.
Thank you.
Well done. A little bit late, but we're getting straight into it again. I want to introduce you to Janine and Salome, who are going to tell you all about influencer marketing and how every niche has its own face. So enjoy and give it up for these two ladies.
Hi everyone. Being here overall, energized, also hi to the people online. I know there's quite a few people who are tuning in today. My name is Salome. I'm an influencer marketing business lead here at DEPT. And I'm super excited to be sharing the stage with Janine. She's here on behalf of Hunke Muller as a global PR and communications manager. And today we're going to talk about our shared passion, our interests, our industry, the ever-changing, wonderful world of influencer marketing. So let's dive in. We're talking about content today, so obviously we also need to talk about the creators of content. We just saw Bol.com and Just Eat talk about the importance of making content is actually resonating, hopping on trends, for example, the whole meme culture that is out there. Well, it's actually the creators, of course, that are shaping that social media landscape for us. They're basically the reason that we're all sitting here today trying to learn how to do better with content because they're challenging us marketeers and brands to do better. But there's also a lot of opportunities that creators bring for us. It's actually the biggest growing marketing opportunity. I know there's always a bit of skepticism around influencer marketing, but these numbers don't lie. It's the biggest growing opportunity. If you look at the last 5 years, there's an 860% growth for budget shifting more towards creators. So that's a huge, huge growth. And the reason for that, I always like to use kind of a metaphor. We're all here at war together, trying to get attention of our consumers. And some brands trying to win that war alone, but that's super difficult because if you're just one brand trying to scream to your audience that you're the best, you can get lost in all of the clutter that's out there, all of the content that's out there, and it's also not very trustworthy because it's just you as a brand telling you're the best. So brands are trying to understand that now. You need advocates who are going to do that for you. You need sort of a network of advocates around you. Leaders, let's say, are also going to tell your consumers that indeed it's true. They are the best, and you have like a backup behind you. So that's why this opportunity is growing immensely and will keep growing. So there's multiple reasons why we would use influencers or creators, but I think we can all agree that the biggest common denominator is the fact that we have a really hard time reaching and especially connecting to that audience. That audience is also becoming more demanding, especially if your audience is Gen Z. You're playing for Champions League because they're super, super difficult to reach. We just saw that from Bol.com. They grew up on social media. They're not the ones to be fooled. If you're trying too hard, you're definitely going to miss the mark. And Gen Z is also 26 years old, right? That's what I just heard. So it's not just a younger audience. It's definitely also, well, let's say the biggest disposable income about to come. So very important that we understand how to reach these people. And why is it that they're so demanding and hard to reach and hard to please? It's because we don't get bored anymore, right? Boredom is dead, as we like to say. We only watch what entertains us. Also what Bol.com just said, people don't like to watch ads typically. I mean, when I watch a Netflix show, I need phone breaks in between to get me other content because otherwise I get bored. Like that's the amount of content that we're consuming. So yeah, and 40% of people use ad blockers, which is also a very big problem. And even if you don't use ad blockers, ads need to be very, very entertaining for us to sort of watch it and engage with it. But that's not the only challenge, because it's hard to reach your audience, but that audience is also getting much more niche. So what we see happening, where back in the days we would used to have, our social media was more like a friendship platform. You would all have the same type of content from people in your school, people where you live, your friends. You will all be in sort of the same world. But now, me and my best friend, we live in the same street. We have the same friends. we are in the same industry basically, but our world online is totally different, and that's because it's only algorithm based right now. So only your interests is what's sort of bonding people right now. So you have all these small niche cultures, let's say, that are happening online with their own, meme culture, their own leaders, their own influencers, their own interests. So yeah, that is a big opportunity if you use it well. If you're just trying to use one message for all your different niche audiences, you're losing them. If you're not visible in your niche audience, you don't exist in their world anymore, which is a problem, but also why it's so important to use influencers, because they can be sort of the translator for your big brand message, your brand values, and they can translate that within the different niches that they lead, let's say, and sort of make sure that it's resonating with them. Again, it's super hard to do this as a brand on your own. You kind of need that network of creators in all of the different niches to make sure that you're present everywhere. So the game isn't just about getting eyeballs, but about getting eyeballs that care. I have these conversations with clients all the time. I know it's about impressions, reaching big numbers, but it's much more about engagement. So impression doesn't really say anything. It's about, did you actually reach someone? Was it engaging? So that word care, you only care if you connect to someone, if you have a certain emotion with someone, a personal connection. That's why influencers are so booming. They can be the personal face for your brand, let's say. So they humanize, personalize, and localize, which we love to use influencers for our brands as sort of an advocate for them. And interesting is that it's not just about how we sort of passively scroll and judge content. It's now also how we actively seek for content. So this is a very interesting thing that we see happening. 40% of Gen Z users prefer TikTok and Instagram over Google for internet searches, meaning that they're now not Googling the best places to eat or the best skincare for dry skin. No, they're TikToking it because they want a human visual representation of their search. They're now seeing someone with the same type of skin as they have, recommending them products in the video that feels trustworthy. So this is very, very interesting. Actually, Instagram and TikTok are now also beta testing search ads. So this is going to be a very big thing. You can now, they're testing on keywords. So let's say we would run an influencer marketing campaign. It's super interesting to take this along in your strategy, making sure you use the right keywords so that you can also say, be the top ad or be the top video that people see whenever they search for content within their interest. So it's really about trust mostly. 71% of consumers trust influencer recommendations. 58% of consumers bought a new product because of influencer recommendations. Probably these numbers are going to be much higher when we talk about Gen Z. TikTok made me buy it was the most used hashtag in 2022. It just says that it's sort of a conversion machine. Influencer marketing achieved 11 times the return on investment in branded ads. Janine can tell you a lot more about that later, why that is true. It's because we just want to see people and not brands. So there's a very, very interesting evolution happening in content here. And I do need my card for that because it's basically a summary of what I just told you. We live in a creator-focused culture, right? It's changing behavior. Culture is changing behavior. It's how we consume, but it's now also how we actively search for content. Boredom is dead, so people only watch what interests them. People trust people, not brands. There's this huge need for authenticity. You have all these sub-niches now happening where with all their own humor, their own interests, their own leaders, so it's very hard to reach them with one message. So this whole sort of war for attention thing, this is the evolution that's happening. So content used to be something that brands would only solely push to consumers. So they would have 100% control of the message they will be sending. What we see happening is that it's slowly evolving into a tool where brands can also influence customers to create content for them, which is what we call creator commerce. It is something now that's happening with Amazon, for example. They're giving full 100% creative control to their influencers to create content fitting in their niches. So on the left, you have 100% control of their brands, the way she's sitting, the way, you still see a little bit of that box. In the right bottom corner, this is sort of staged and people feel that. And then there's this huge need for personalized, humanized content on a large scale. So Amazon is almost like, okay, I'm giving full creative to these people. Everyone can be an Amazon creator right now. You can, this girl Lauren and Amazon have never met each other, but she's creating content for them because she's been influenced to do so, because she can generate earnings off of the affiliate links that she's posting. It's called Amazon Storefront. If you're interested, look it up. It's very, very interesting. But yeah, that's a big shift, right? So it's a cultural shift between brands always having 100% control to zero control, which is very scary, I know that. And influencer marketing, a traditional influencer marketing sort of sits right in the middle, where we balance out what a brand wants, their message, their brand values, whatever that campaign is about at that time, but also about the influencer and their niche and what they know resonates with their audience. So it's like, let's say, a 50-50 split. And this whole funnel, let's say we use an influencer on the branded ad, very much awareness focused, all the way down to conversion. So it's a funnel, and you can use influencers throughout that whole funnel. And I'm gonna give the word to Janine to tell you more about that, because in my opinion, they're pioneers in the Netherlands as a brand who understood this, using influencer marketing, through the whole funnel. So, do you need the clicker?
Yeah, just to make sure that is going as well, I think. So hi, I'm Janine, Global PR and Communications Manager at Hunkemöller. I've been there for 3 years, almost, and in 3 years' time we've had a major shift in our influencer marketing department. We really grew massively. I could hire one whole person, she's sitting right there. But if you look at what we did 3 years ago and what we do now, it's really massive change. What I think is really fun or interesting to see is that when you look at bol.com and Just Eat creating their own content, we heavily rely on creators. So if you look at our Instagram channel, if you look at our TikTok channel, we let creators create the content for us. We do that on all different layers that I will go through later, but basically why we do influencer marketing at Hunkemöller is to drive awareness, boost demand, and really leverage content. Just really quick, we believe in female empowerment and the power of our product, but we really truly believe in authentic and true endorsements by the people who wear our product. Obviously, we're a fashion company. We bring in new product every week, every month, multiple collections per year, so we also need new content constantly. That went wrong now, but anyway. At Hunkemöller, I can truly say that we were pioneers on the front of influencer marketing and brand ambassadors. Who of you know Sylvie Meijs for Hunkemöller? Couple of people, Duitse Kroes, couple of people. We really started building top funnel and top of our pyramid basically already in 2012. It's one of the first bigger companies or more commercial mass fashion companies working with a face like that. She did amazing for us, but we were also one of the first ones to start a real ambassador program. So we have started with a group of, I think, 20, 30, 40, and it grew. Girls in the Netherlands, in Germany, slowly in Belgium, adding more markets, Spain, the Nordics. These are girls that receive product from us and they make content with it. We repost them, they get a reach, so it's kind of a building program together. At the moment, we're at 330 34 ambassadors across 8 markets, I think. And I will tell a little bit more about that as well, but it really, really works for us. But since 3 years, we really started to build that whole pyramid. And I think if you go to the next slide, yeah, so the whole pyramid, and I think we were also one of the first ones to really create this, because in the end, we're all influencers and we are all having an influence on people. But if you look at our pyramid, we at the complete top have our mega influencers, which was, for example, Sylvie Meijs, it was Duitse Kroes. 2 years ago, we had Lucy Hale. I don't know, maybe some of you know her from Pretty Little Liars. And they have their own collection. We built beautiful campaigns with them. And then underneath, we have the macro influencers. So also really big girls, but slightly less on a global scale. They also have their own collection. For the Netherlands, for example, we had Vivian Horn, we had Anna Nushin, we had Danielle van Grondel, but we also worked with Nia Kim Gatweg. We worked with Rebecca Meir and the Pade twins in Germany, so we also sometimes localize a little bit. And then we had our ambassador program, which is really that those girls ranging, yeah, they can start at 3,000 followers, but some of them even have 100,000 followers. We generally don't pay them, we just pay them with products and experiences. So we create a really big Hunkemüller family. They meet each other, they make content together, we organize nice days, trips, holidays with them, nice dinners. We really give them something and they give their content to us. They learn from each other, they learn from us, and we learn from them how to create our best content. The paid influencer part, so this one, we really built further in the last 3 years. These are girls that have a bigger audience. They're definitely not free. And we kind of shift a little bit what Salome was also talking about. When we started growing that part of the pyramid, we really wanted to give them a very clear briefing. It has to look like this. You have to include these words. You can use these kind of props. And then we noticed that the girls were not happy. The content didn't perform that well. And they started asking for more creative freedom, which was super scary for us because we used to make this beautiful image and our campaigns were always kind of the same kind of way that we made campaigns, the girls that we used. And now these girls, these creators that we were paying money, wanted to have that creative freedom to make posts that resonate with their audience, which obviously makes the most sense. We would reuse the content, but it was most important that the content worked for their audience because they have the power to influence their audience. Then if we go back to the pyramid, ambassadors, like I told you, really important. We also have one layer underneath, so we work with the brand ambassador program, and then it's our active members, our fans, our followers. If you look at what is being posted about us, I mean, girls are really happy to post their new sets on Instagram, even if they only have 500 followers or 200 followers. It's really going from the top layer to the lowest funnel, or to the lowest layer, and we basically can reuse all of that content. Next slide. So some tips and tricks from my side about influencer marketing. Make sure you pick the right influencers if you work with them. So obviously, whoever posts about your brand, you don't always have control over, but who you work with, you have control with, who you proactively work with. For us, female empowerment, super important. Inclusivity, super important. Being nice to each other, super important. Women supporting women, super important. If there's a girl who wants to work with us, because we have a lot of people in influencers and creators reaching out to us, and they are known, for example, for being not so nice to other women or other people, it's a reason for us not to work with them. Because in the end, they are ambassadors for our brand, so they need to match our brand values. We do really focus on engagement rate and the niche. So focus for us on that is really important, and not just the number of followers, because someone can have 3 million followers, but if their engagement rate is 0.8%, yeah, it's not really really interesting. Sometimes for us, it's also interesting to see is their following mainly male, female, what type of follower, where is their following. If they have a lot of followers in the US, it might be less interesting for us. If their following is all in a country that we're not located, it's also less interesting. So it's not just number of followers, it's really the audience, engagement rate, what is the girl like, because we only work with women, obviously. Yeah, like I said, let the creator be the creator. The content needs to work on their channel, their audience. We've had some issues there. Like I said, we make all of our own campaigns in-house, and they're beautiful and they're amazing, and we try to tell stories through our campaigns. And now all of a sudden, we had these girls, you know, taking over our organic social with their interpretation of our brand. In that sense, the clearer your brand identity, the more the creator will match your brand. So for some brands, not necessarily ours, we do give some guidelines, so not heavy dark backgrounds, for example, because it just performs less on our channels. But there are brands that have such a clear brand identity and such a clear brand look that the influencer content just seamlessly matches that look, because it's, for example, always a white background. So yeah, then it's quite easy. And we try to tell a little bit more stories. Something great about influencer marketing is that you can actually use the content on different platforms. So not just on your social channels, but also your website, your email. We really see that the CTRs on UGC content are much higher than on campaign content, for example, and we will never get rid of, well, I won't ever say ever, because we might just, but at the moment we would not get rid of campaign content, but we do see that UGC in general works way better. So videos that are made with iPhone, or TikToks that are really, we had some TikToks now that are filmed in the office of people in the office. It was loved, like they did so well. So people really want to see realness, and at UGC that we use on our website, in our emails, is really performing well as well. So that's interesting to know as well. If you have a paid influencers, make sure you have within your deal that you can push the content paid and that you can use it on different channels. But most of the time this content really, really works. And it's also and that we have maybe a little bit to learn there as well still. But if you have a beautiful organic social and someone lands on that page and sees your content and then goes to your website and doesn't see anything that is remotely relating to that content they see on social, it's a really weird connection, and you might lose them once they hit the website. And I truly believe in long-term collabs. One, it makes it easier to work with them. It goes faster, but it's also for your trust, for your brand. It's just really good to show that you're working with girls or boys or men or women on a longer term. But do understand that not every post works as well. So sometimes we would have a post and it would go through the roof with a girl, and then the next post would not go through the roof, and then my marketing director would be like, Janine, why is it not performing? But it's just not every post performs. Learnings. Yeah, it's really scary to let go of control. And if you're a marketeer or an influencer marketeer or a communications person or a social media person, and your manager says, oh, yeah, it's true. It is really true. But it resonates with their audience. We see higher engagement. We see better click-through rates. We see conversion and traffic coming in on these influencer posts. So it really does have an effect. And I believe in that full funnel and upper and lower. And if you ask, yeah, what are the CPMs? Yeah, sometimes they're really high. If you have a girl in Germany, your CPM can be 35 plus. Yeah, that is very high when you compare it to TV. But you do know that when it's an engaged person, an engaged influencer, that she actually has a very targeted reach and a very targeted influence on the people you try to reach. Yeah, so it is challenging how to show ROI, especially as an omni-channel brand as Hunkemöller, because I have no freaking clue how many people go into our 850 stores because of the influencers and because of the creators. And I cannot measure it. Yeah, I can give a discount code and say, if you go to the store, you get 10% off, but it's very hard to tackle. But there is a lot of data available, and especially if you're an online brand, you can track literally everything. Results on traffic, on conversion, but yeah, what really shows our results and our success as well is those better click-through rates, is that good performance on email, good performance on website, high likes, engagement on organic social, and also better results on paid social. And you really have to understand that influencer marketing is really so much more than just a conversion tool. It is such an amazing, like if I look at our influencer marketing at the moment at Hunkemöller, I really feel that throughout the pyramid, we built this beautiful Hunkemöller family of women that support each other, that are loving each other, they love the brand, they are super excited when new collections come out, they all want to work with us, they all want to work for us. We have this beautiful combination of working with data and working with social media and online and bringing that online world also to the offline world. So we organize events, we organize dinners. Remember, you're working with people, not just clicks on your computer. And I think that's what makes this industry really fun to work in, and with really, really great results. That was my monologue.
Thank you, ladies. Unfortunately, we've run a little bit out of time, so no time for questions. So if you have questions, just yes, or hit these ladies up on LinkedIn, because now we have to make ourselves ready for the last speaker of today. But thank you, ladies, for your very inspiring talk. And last but not least, Franklin is gonna tell you all about immersive content and how to storytell with immersive content. So give it up for Franklin.
Hello, good morning. All right, so let's dive right in. I want to start with a little experiment. So in a second, I'm going to show an image really quickly on the screen, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions about it. All right? It's going to be very quick, so don't blink. Are you ready? Did you see it? Yeah. Good. By raise of hands, who knows which fairy tale this was? Come on. Yeah, which one? Can I ask you? Yes, Red Riding Hood, very well. Next question. Who thinks they can recall the main storyline, so the main narrative? Where did she go, what did she bring, and what happened? By raise of hands. Yeah, most of you? Can I ask you?
She went to grandmother's house.
Very well.
To see, because she was ill and to take care of her, and then grandmother eaten by the wolf.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if those puppet was eaten as well, but they were safe as well.
Very, very well, very well. Well done. All right, so the points I try to make with this little experiment is twofold. The first one is the power of the visual cortex. The fact that you can recall a story by just seeing a split second of an image is quite remarkable, actually. And the second point I try to make is that storytelling is incredibly powerful as well. The fact that you are able to recall a story that you might haven't heard for at least a decade is super special. And this is because storytelling is really at the base of humanity. It goes back hundreds of thousands of years. It's as old as we are, and as old as all the things that make us human, like art and music and marriage and warfare and biparental care. And studies show that narratives are processed different in the brain as well. So there was this study where they had two groups of people. One group got presented they were doctors, and one group got presented the medicine regimen for prescribing medicine to their patients, and the other group got presented that in a story type of way, and the first group in a sort of more fact-driven way. And the story group was the group of doctors remembered that much better. And not only can stories help remembering or recall information, they also help with persuasion. So there was this study where people got offered vacation packages. One group got offered them in a fact or a list type of way. The other group got them presented in a story or a narrative type of way. And the story group converted around 30% better. And no wonder then that stories have been the backbone of advertising. You might remember some of these fantastic ads of the 90s. The Heineken walk-in fridge, Rolo and the elephant, or the Joyrider and the family of Moscovich. Unfortunately, however, very little of this has been translated online. If you look at internet back then, 20 years ago, and now, a lot really looks pretty much the same. And I have some examples. So here on the left, you see the Disney website in 1996. Shout out to Disney for being online in 96. And on the right, you see Disney today. Of course, it looks different. Of course, it looks better. But functionally, it's pretty much the same. You would expect a bit more from a billion-dollar entertainment franchise, to be honest. Fashion is a little bit the same. On the left, you see Mango in 2010, I believe, yeah. And on the right, you see Mango today. Very similar type of approach, very similar layout. Although in 2010, they had Kate Moss. Sony then, not much different. Sony in 2011 and Sony today. Honestly, the PS3 on the header gives it away, but otherwise, the left one could just as well be today. And last but not least, Coca-Cola in 2013 and 10 years later, another imagination or magic company. It's a bit disappointing, honestly. And so sort of my question or my sort of premise is, where are all the stories? Where's the magic and where's the love of all these billion-dollar enterprises? The reason, I think, or the problem is that telling good stories online is pretty hard. But, as I hope to show you today, it's really worth the effort. So the first problem that brands have is that they have a lot to consider online. I mean, think of all these things that digital brands need to take into account to be able to tell a good story. This is about content management, localization, channel mix, design capacity, PI plannings, all these things to make something happen digitally. And the second thing is that digital storytelling is quite a close coordination between a lot of different disciplines and a lot of different efforts. Think about brand, copy, photography, UX, CGI, and this is just the creative roles, not even the technical roles that are necessary to implement them. And the third thing, I think this is maybe the most important, is that brands seem to be too focused on conversion or short-term business goals instead of on emotion or long-term brand ambitions. And that's really a shame, because I think that's where the magic is for all these companies and all their stories. But the facts don't lie. So as I try to indicate, 97% of people, this is at least what research, recent research shows, have their buying intent influence online. So they do research before they buy, physical or digital, and yeah, almost everyone. Another recent study showed that most of the buying decisions, practically all, are purely emotional. So they're completely intuitive, and they got rationalized by the mind. And I saw another statistic the other day of people buying cars, and people buying cars watch more reviews of the car after they bought the car than before, just to sort of validate their purchase. And with the examples I mentioned earlier, you see that there's a 61% better recall rate for stories over facts. And story-driven pages or marketing material, at least, also convert 30% better. So in other words, what are we waiting for? Now I want to go through some examples from our portfolio to show you a little bit how we created immersion with stories on different levels and different type of brands. And the first one is Patagonia. I think a brand that needs very little introduction. They made this legendary campaign a few years back. And it's a brand for who the purpose is almost more important than the product. And so the design concept that we did, that we created, was finding the balance between purpose and product. They asked us to redesign the global webshop for 52 countries, and that was sort of the design idea behind it. And the content strategy that we put next to that was telling the brand story at every step in the journey. They have a lot of stories to tell about sort of their purpose, their impact, and their value systems, and that's what we wanted to bring forward. So here's some shots. This is homepage, some of the story formats. I think this is interesting where you see this in effect. This is a typical buying journey from someone ordering a fleece. So on the fleece lister, you see a user-generated shot from an ambassador of them, Sonny Trotter, a mountaineer, famous mountaineer. And it happens on all the different pages and all the different categories. And when you scroll down on the product detail page, you see a dedicated section around impact, how it's made, and where it's made. And you can deep dive on those, read up on it. And what's pretty cool is that they don't show what they're doing currently, but they also tell what they're going to do next to, keep that progressive momentum. The second one I want to show is Floss. Floss might be less familiar, but it's a super high-end light and fixture brand from Milan in Italy. And they asked us to make a new global web shop. They only sold through resellers and third parties, but they wanted to go direct in 32 countries. So the design concept that we made was to take users on a journey from dark to light, quite literally. And the content strategy was to celebrate design and designers. This is a brand really from designers, for designers or design-minded people. And that's what we try to sort of achieve here. So some shots just for reference. By the way, this was the first client that allowed us or asked us to make the logo smaller instead of bigger. If you can go back, we really present them a very big logo, but ended up with the example on the right. Yeah, and we played around with a lot of references around light. So there was a soft sort of spotlight tracking your mouse wherever you go, and the journey, as you will see in a second, really went from dark to light quite literally. We created a lot of story pages where they could tell their stories. They were red, green, and blue according to the sort of lights in the light spectrum. And yeah, this is what I said. When you go further in the funnel, deeper in the funnel, the page was a bit more bright. A couple of video snippets. This first one is about sort of the designers and how we embedded them. So really dedicated entry for designers. For each of the designers or design duos or design firms that work with Floss, we made a complete backstory with quotes, historical images, sometimes mini documentaries. And of course, slowly working to the products from these designers that you could order right away. Yeah, and the second sort of content section we did was stories. So these were famous places in Italy or around Italy, like Palazzo Monti is an art collective in Italy, and they also have featured work from Floss, featured lamps. And also there you could click on the contextual image and shop the light right away. Of course, given that you have 5,100 euros to spend on a lamp, that is. The third case is Mauritshuis. Mauritshuis is one of the most famous museums from the Netherlands, but of course less famous than the Van Gogh Museum and the Rijksmuseum, with amazing work from Vermeer and Rembrandt, amongst which the girl with the pearl earring, of course. And they asked us to make a new digital experience, so a new website and a new audio tour. And the design concept was to create a sort of gallery-like exploration where users could discover the Dutch masters. And the content strategy was to look at the work through different eyes, different perspectives. Art is very subjective, and it's very interesting to see how other people experience art. So here's some shots. This is the audio tour. What was very nice is that we had super high resolution content to work with all the art. So users could really look up their favorite painting and deep dive on it in super high resolution. So the pearl up close. And what was pretty nice is that they also had a lot of metadata, so also scans from the rear, for example, and also sort of pre-restored images and X-rays of all the work. And of course, a lot of relevant content and information on that work. Something we didn't do, but we embedded it on the website. It's pretty cool that they had this, is a full 360 mapping of the whole museum. So you could walk through the museum virtually, deep dive on all the work, and they even have the ornaments in the ceilings taken in, so you could really sort of relive your visit or visit if you're not able to visit in the first place. But the most important thing I think makes this special is the perspectives, as I mentioned. And so the perspectives are voice clips of famous people, it can also be artists or experts, on specific work or bundles of work or collections of work. And this is an example of the girl with the pearl earring. Two perspectives, one from a museum educator, a teacher, and one from a security guard that works in the Mauritshuis.
The Mona Lisa of the North. That's how our girl with the pearl earring is also known. She's one of our most important masterpieces here at the Mauritshuis. That's what I always say when I'm giving a guided tour for our older, but also for our younger visitors.
On one of my first days working at the Mauritshuis, I saw a young man going down on one knee in front of the girl with a pearl earring and asking his girlfriend to marry him.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool to hear those different perspectives. And I think where it even was more prominent or it was more special is in the audio tour. So here we carried over all these perspectives, and shout out to Mauritshuis for developing these over time. So some paintings have 10, sometimes even 12 different perspectives from artists, from experts, from different people from the Netherlands. And they also offer this in different languages. So it's in English, in German, in French, in Italian, and even in Japanese. So the last story I want to cover is Bijenkorf. So Bijenkorf, I think, also needs no introduction, one of the biggest department stores of the Netherlands, at least the most high-end. And they do, around Christmas, always these thematic shopping windows. And 2 years ago, it was the Magical Forest. Admire and Amaze was their theme. And they asked us to create a digital experience around it. So the design concept was to create a magical forest that marvels. And the content strategy was to seamlessly blend the theme, the story, and the products together in this digital experience. So there was this little bee floating around on the Bijenkorf webshop that you could click, and then the magical forest opened, and you could explore. You could control the bee by scrolling with your mouse and pass alongside different products that were selected exclusively for that period of time. We wrote a little poem or a little storyline that carried through all the way to the end. And yeah, it was a really sort of explorative experience. You could favorite the items and they would carry over to your basket on Bijenkorf webshop. And yeah, it was pretty amazing to be making. We did all the content. We selected an illustrator that could do the style that we really wanted and created sort of a super layered forest in 3D that could be navigated in all browsers. And what was also pretty cool is we shot the specific items, the specific content in the forest in a way that it fitted in nicely. So we didn't just Photoshop it in, we really shot it and then brought it and edited in the forest. So here you see the jacket and the bag I just showed, nicely embedded into the environment. So why I'm showing you these different examples is that although the briefs are very different, there's a couple things that unite all of these examples. The first one is that the sort of content strategy and the design concept work in harmony. So they strengthen each other to make it more rich, make it more sort of imaginary and more close to the brand. And the second thing is that we always try to go beyond what the initial brief was a little bit, or what is functionally necessary to make you feel something, to make really that connection to the brand. And so, yeah, the reason for this talk today is I really hope that we can do a little bit more of this for all brands, and we see a little bit more of this online, because really we can do, I think, a little bit better on the story department. So I want to go out with a quote. You heard a lot about content today, and I think if you would summarize my talk in one sentence, it would be, it's the content that makes the experience, but it's the feeling that makes us remember. Thank you.
Questions? Anyone? No questions. Any questions online, Dana? All right. Then thank you, Franklin, for a very immersive talk. And thank you all for attending here at DEPT and also at home. If it's all been a bit too much to take in, we will send you all the presentations in a video, so you can take a look and have a look back and take maybe screenshots of all the things you just missed on screen. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got inspired about all the different types of content you can do and deal with your brand. And yeah, have a good day and hopefully see you next time.